Hey, what's up? This is Gardetrace, and fuck Irma. Fuck her right in the ass. I'm just glad that's over with, so now I can get back to my videos. Now, in my rant about cauliflower and kale being Mary Sue's that I posted a few months back, you guys had a lot of interesting things to say, and somehow the conversation shifted towards Gohan, where you guys were talking about how Gohan is just getting powered up so quickly for the Tournament of Power after being portrayed as rather weak throughout this series of Dragon Ball Super. So, this has gotten me really wanting to talk about this now, because a lot of the things you guys said were things that I myself had already thought about. So, the point of this video, we're going to be asking a question. Has Gohan lost all credibility? Well, to really answer that question, let's just take an overview of Gohan for a minute. Now, Gohan, he has been showcased to possess a lot of hidden reserves of power that really lets itself out when Gohan is feeling moments of intense emotion. Because he would first showcase this against Raditz, where Gohan would bust out of the pod in order to save his dad from having his ribs crushed by Raditz. So that was the first instance, and then that would of course lead to Piccolo taking Gohan with him to train. However, one thing about Gohan that has been made clear is that he may have huge reserves of power, however, he's a pacifist. He does not like fighting. Gohan is not like his father in that regard. Gohan is mostly trying to avoid fights, and he only gets really involved in a fight if it's to save someone he cares about. Because so many times Gohan, especially early on, has been showcased to be very timid, and then of course Gohan would just mostly fight only to save others rather than fighting for the fun of it like Goku does. But one thing about Gohan is the series has pretty much been grooming him to be the successor of Goku, because this story can be seen as more so Gohan story as opposed to Goku, because Goku's very absentee within the story and you can't call him so much of the main character as you would Gohan, who gets so much focus in this story. So Gohan would be the one who is ultimately being groomed to surpass his dad and be the new savior of the story, be the new hero. But then, of course, when we get to a certain point within the Majin Buu saga, it seems as though Toriyama had changed his mind. And it was especially noticeable during Gohan's fight against Super Buu. Because this is Gohan after getting his full potential unlocked by the Elder Supreme Kai. So Gohan, he goes back to Earth. He has Kibito make him an outfit that's the same as his dad's gi. So he goes off, and this is Gohan's big time to shine as the hero of the story, because in the previous story arc, Gohan was the big hero of that story arc, as he is the one to defeat Cell, not Goku. So Gohan, it looks like Gohan has this all wrapped up, but then through a whole lot of contrived bullshit, we throw Gohan under the bus to focus on Goku being the hero again. So it's gotten to the point where Toriyama no longer thinks that Gohan is suitable to be the main protagonist of this story. Because even in an interview, Toriyama would go on to say that, and he has been interviewed about that subject twice. Of course, the first time was a long time ago, and then recently, he and Toyotaro were interviewed on that same thing again. Because one thing about Gohan is like, he is definitely not like his father at all. Now, his mother, of course, has been pushing him towards academics. She's been pushing him towards being a scholar. But here's the thing. Gohan actually likes that. He actually likes hitting the books much more than he likes fighting. So Gohan, being the main character of a show that is about fighting, really does not seem right at this point. Because considering that Gohan is very pacifistic and he doesn't really keep up with his own training, this would really turn into a vastly different show if Gohan were to be the main character. Because let's just think of Gohan for a minute, like all the times he's trained. First, he was trained by Piccolo to prepare for the Saiyans' arrival. Then he did mental training with Krillin on his way to Namek. Then he would train for 3 years with Goku and Piccolo to prepare for the androids. Then he'd spend a year in the hyperbolic time chamber with Goku, which is where Gohan learned to become a Super Saiyan. So one thing that you have to realize about Gohan and training is he never initiates training on his own. Someone else trains him. Because left to his own devices, Gohan won't train. As a matter of fact, he really doesn't, as he would go 7 years without even so much as training anymore from that point in time. And that's where Goku and Vegeta would go on to surpass him. We have Gohan, who was the first character to showcase Super Saiyan 2, and he was the strongest character in the show by that point, but then he would just go on to greatly just ignore his training and become quite weak compared to what he was before. But then he would get a Hack's power-up in the form of the Elder Supreme Kai sitting for like 25 hours while doing that dumb marching thing around him first, which somehow allowed Gohan to fully tap into his power. All of Gohan's hidden potential was risen up to the surface, and Gohan in this state is known as Ultimate Gohan. But Ultimate Gohan ultimately isn't the one to defeat Majin Buu. Instead, Goku is. So Gohan has been greatly thrown under the bus in Dragon Ball Z. And then when we take the next 2 series into account, we see just how much of a wuss Gohan has become. Because in GT, Gohan, of course, has been solely focused on his family as well as his work. He doesn't even showcase the ability to access his ultimate power anymore, and he really isn't all that important in the series. Hell, he had said that he would go up into space along with Goku in order to help him find the Black Star Dragon Balls, but then he ultimately does not go in there, and Gohan is just so greatly out of focus. And then we have Dragon Ball Super, which has been making Gohan look like even more of a bitch than what he looked like in GT, because during the Battle of Gods arc, we see that Gohan still is capable of accessing his ultimate form, but come Resurrection F, which is like roughly a year after Battle of Gods, he becomes an absolute wuss who not only can access his ultimate form no longer, not only can't he go Super Saiyan 2 anymore, he can barely maintain Super Saiyan at this point. And it's gotten to a point where he's just portrayed as an absolute weakling. He's just a huge shell of what he formerly was, because he goes from being the complete badass that he was back when he was 11 years old and defeated Cell, to being an absolute bitch in his adulthood. And it's got to the point where it's like, wow, you have ignored your training this much and your power level has taken this massive of a drop. And when it comes to the art style of Gohan during this time, he's portrayed as being very skinny, when normally Gohan from being in adulthood is always portrayed as being very muscular. Hey, even when he was a kid, he's more muscular than what he was being portrayed as during Super, during this time where Gohan greatly lost a lot of his power. But then we get to the point of But then, of course, Gohan, he wants to train in order to get stronger again, of course, because, you know, he has a family to protect. And then comes the Tournament of Power. Gohan is training along with Piccolo in order to reawaken his ultimate form. And then what we have here is Gohan somehow able to somewhat go toe-to-toe with the likes of Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who also is using the Kaioken. This is where it gets to the point where it just seems like Gohan, who has been so thrown under the bus, he just all of a sudden is accessing this power all over again within a really short span of time. Because what has Gohan been showcased doing throughout most of Dragon Ball Super? Well, being a family man. Because Gohan, of course, has his career being a scholar, and then, of course, he is there to take care of his wife Videl as well as their daughter Pan. One thing we see about Gohan is he puts his family ahead of everything else. And there was even a job that Gohan was offered, but he turned it down because it would mean spending too much time away from his family. So Gohan has showcased to be a guy who, unlike Goku, is there to be a part of his children's lives. He's there to be a husband to his wife. So training really hasn't been a priority for Gohan. But then within pretty much a short span of training, we showcase Gohan somehow able to get his mystic form again and become relevant at this point. And then Gohan is also named the team captain of Universe 7, which is entirely pointless because is there even going to be any narrative benefit to Gohan becoming that? Are you going to try to groom Gohan to being like the main character again, which of course we know that's not gonna happen. This is going to forever be the Goku show from this point onward. So there's really no point in that. So when it comes right down to it, has Gohan lost all credibility? Hell the fuck yes, he has. Because he is a character who was destined for so much greater things as far as this story is concerned. He was being groomed to ultimately become the main character of the story, to ultimately be the successor of his father and being the protector of the earth. But then he gets thrown under the bus by Toriyama himself because, well, Toriyama knows Gohan, and he knows that Gohan does not have the proper mindset to be the main character of a show that is about fighting. This show is about fighting. It's not about book smarts. It really doesn't matter what Gohan does academically, because none of that really matters in a show that's all about punching people. Book smarts is something reserved for a series like Death Note. But when it comes right down to Gohan, we see just what kind of a character he is. He is a guy who, like I said, puts his family first. He is the polar opposite of Goku, because Goku puts himself first. He focuses on his own self-improvements through training, and he is absentee to his family for long periods of time. Some of which weren't his fault, but then others were clearly his fault, because he would go on to voluntarily leave his family for years on end to go off training. And this is something that Chi-Chi, of course, has come to expect of Goku at this point. Gohan is a guy who is all about his family. He cares deeply for his wife and daughter, and the thing that really establishes this character moment is during the 9 weeks of peace going on between the Future Trunks arc and the Tournament of Power, where we focus on those episodes that were about the Great Saiyaman. Because in these episodes, we see just how much Videl truly loves Gohan. We see just how much Gohan truly loves Videl. So we see that even with these pictures that were taken to try to frame Gohan to make him look like he's cheating on Videl, Videl didn't buy any of this for a second, because she knows Gohan far too well. She knows he's not that type of guy. So that right there really just so establishes Gohan as a character. He is a guy who greatly just puts his family first. He loves his wife, and you can tell she loves him as well. They know each other so well. They spend so much time with one another. Unlike Goku and Chi-Chi, for example, as they're the worst married couple ever. Because when it comes right down to Gohan, it ultimately doesn't matter what new power-ups he gets. It doesn't matter if he becomes Super Saiyan Ikari. It doesn't matter if he becomes Super Saiyan Blue. It doesn't matter if he can mix his ultimate form with those. none of that matters. Because Gohan will ignore his training, become incredibly rusty all over again, as he is too busy focusing on his career and his family to give any sort of focus for training. So Gohan, he's a character that has the potential to be the most powerful character within the series. He has the potential to be so much stronger than his dad, but he ultimately isn't, because when it comes right down to training, Gohan may have all the potential, however, Goku has all the work ethic. So, ultimately,
Gohan is the strongest in the universe, but still doesn't do crap.
So what do you guys think of this? Be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Also like and subscribe to this channel for more content to come. So with that being said, that'll be the end of this video. Have a good day, everyone. This is Trace, signing out.